What's up, my alphas? Welcome to Leading the Pack. I'm your host, Dom Clegg, a mental performance coach and former football coach dedicated to helping you turn your mindset into your ultimate weapon and coach you to help you be the alpha of your life. Now it's time to level up and lead this pack. Let's go attack this work together. I'm super excited to have Marron Walseth here on with us. She's a former Division I basketball player and professional basketball player. She turned into a collegiate head coach after that, and now is a broadcaster and certified performance coach with a career that spans elite athletic competition, high-level coaching, and now leadership development. Maren brings a unique lens of to the conversation and around high performance. A standout basketball player over at Penn State, then she became, like I said, a professional basketball player in the WNBA and overseas before transitioning into coaching, where she was a head coach at the collegiate level, and now she's a Ben Newman certified coach, associate certified coach from ICF, and a co-leader of our next level coaches summit, which we are able to do some different webinars. And I think we're going to change that into a little bit of a podcast. So you guys can look out for that. But she is deeply invested in helping coaches, athletes, professionals across the board with their mindset, discipline, culture, and leadership. So super excited to have Maren on. Maybe she can give us some of her broadcasting takes as well, but super happy to have you here, Maren.
Dom, I am excited to be here as well. Thank you very much. I'm never going to turn down an opportunity to talk. So thank you.
Yeah, whether it's broadcasting, hopping on a podcast, or doing your own thing with all your different TikToks and social media, it's great to have you on.
Thank you.
Want to go back to the early days, young Maren. When did you realize that you were just kind of maybe wired a little bit differently, and you just had that hunger to maybe compete or lead other people?
I'm always jealous of people who are like, I remember that moment, or like, I remember when I was 5 and I did X, Y, and Z. I do not have that good of a memory. But what I do think it comes back to is I am a firstborn child. I have a younger sister. And I'm also a bit of a type A personality. So being focused and wanting to finish things, that has always come, kind of naturally to me. And I think when you find success, when I found success in sports, I wanted to do more of it because it was fun, right? Like, let's be honest, when you are successful, and it doesn't have to necessarily be winning, but like when you like what you're doing, when you like the people that you're with, when you find, when you get support from your family or your friends, like it's fun, right? Like people come and watch you or cheer you on, and it's fun, and you want to do more of that. And I think that is more of when I knew that I could do things or go far, or how I was wired. I've always been tall. I'm 6'2". I've been 6'2" since 7th grade, which is very tall for a female in 7th grade. And not that I was given a lot of things. I mean, it wasn't like I was amazing in 5th grade, but when you're taller than everybody else, like some things do come easy. There were a lot of challenges. I mean, being the tallest girl in junior high, being the tallest kid in junior high is not easy, is not fun, is not cool. But I was an aggressive kid. Like I didn't mind contact. I didn't mind, sweating, people, running into me, things being hard or, dirty, that kind of stuff. So I think when that was just natural for me. And then you find some success and you like the kids that you play with. It was like, oh, well, what's next? How do we do that next? So there's a summer team. Like, yeah, I want to try out for the summer team. Like it just kind of kept feeding itself, because I genuinely enjoyed it. And I had the right amount of success to stretch me without crushing me, in basketball, but other sports as well.
For sure. I love that. I want to touch on that real quick before going into some other stuff of just how much being in alignment with yourself or purpose in your life, how much that can fuel you and help you. I want you to kind of elaborate on that, of how that can help people.
I think that's a great point, Dom. And, if we look at it from like a parental perspective, like forcing your kids to do the sport or the activity because you were good at it or you liked it, isn't necessarily in alignment with just who they are, as an individual, and that there can be struggles for that kid or for your relationship with that kid. If you talk about being a coach, asking that player to hold this role. Maybe it's be the vocal leader. If that's not really who they are, there's always going to be friction and tension in an unhealthy and frustrating, capacity. As working adults outside of coaching, if you're in an industry that you don't actually have a passion for, you're really good at numbers, but you don't like sitting in a cube all day, you're going to it's going to show up when you go home. And so I think it can be misconstrued like, oh, we just take the easy way. No, it's not just take the easy way. It's find the alignment and go with the flow, right? Like if this particular project or sport as a child or activity, like you're enjoying it or your kid's enjoying it and there's like some smoothness to it, run with it, roll with it, go with it. And have the conversations that this is what I enjoy. This is the leadership style. This is the industry, don't work against yourself. I think that people can get confused with, well, I just got to make it work. I'm a hard worker and I'm going to figure it out. And although that is true, I think when people really stop and think, they can all point to hard things that they've accomplished when in alignment, when going with the energy or the flow versus trying to stuff a square peg into a round hole. If we sit down and think about it, we all can tell the difference, but that's not always how we think about it. Like, I'm a hard worker. I'm just going to figure this out. Like, well, we need this kid to be more vocal. Like, he or she is the kid that's going to do it. Is that really what they're cut out for?
Absolutely. I wanted you to touch on that because it's been something I've been working through of like figuring out not only just going with like a passion per se, but like who am I built to be? What is my purpose? And when we find places that we can excel in, or I guess not only excel in, but like it aligns with us. So we excel in it almost naturally because it's who we're built to be. So we're like, even if I work really hard, I'm going to feel good. But if it's something that I don't like and it's that offshoot branch, I could work as hard as I can, but it's going to drain me in certain ways. And it's also going to maybe just be knocking my head against the wall or, like you said, square peg, round hole. I'm just going to keep slamming it in there and it's not going to actually work. So I think it applies to both. And like you alluded to with a coach or even, I guess, a leader in an organization, if that person's not built for that, let's find what they are built for. And then let's find the person that is built for that and groom them to do that.
Mm-hmm. And we can't always meet everybody's needs all the time. And I think that's like kind of pie in the sky and not necessary or not realistic. But the playing to people's strengths, like it's so common in sports, right? Like, why are we having, that player do that, run that route or execute that play when they'd be better served doing something else? Like, our team will be better if they play offense or play defense or, set the screen
Absolutely.
rather than take the shot. But there's a level of awareness and ability to pivot. I think that's so important, right?
Yeah.
Like, you and I, as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we can say we want our business to run this direction. And we can also pivot to what the needs are or where we see we can fill a void or provide support, regardless if that's on day one, X amount of years ago, what you thought you were going to be doing.
Oh,
So the
constant
pivot
pivoting.
part there, I think, is incredibly important too.
Yeah, constant pivoting right now, as we both know. Just, I thought this was how it's going to be. Well, actually, this is how it needs to be. So let's go pivot to that. So as we pivot, let's talk about how we go to, you were a student athlete, then a professional athlete, then a coach, and now a broadcaster and performance coach. What has each chapter kind of taught you about yourself, and how have you been able to apply that to your life and to help others?
I think there's a lot of growth, physical growth, emotional growth that happens in each of those phases. And, whether it's like physically, I couldn't physically play at the level anymore. And I was totally okay being cut the last time, thank goodness. so that I could pivot and do something else. Like I wasn't going to quit myself. That's just not in my nature. And so when I was cut, when I was fired, I mean, that's the sport word for being fired. When I was cut from the WNBA, it was like, thank you. Now I can go to the next chapter because I kind of outgrew and physically couldn't perform at that level. And so I think, you and I have talked about like that's how assistant coaches become head coaches. Like you've kind of outgrown that role on that staff or in that environment and you're ready for the next challenge. Not that you haven't mastered, not that you don't make mistakes, but it's like I'm ready for the next chapter. And so that constant, like I've had success. This is kind of fun. I think I'm ready. I have enough confidence in myself to want to take that next step and see what happens. That's how I think of like the chapters or my career of, so I'm no longer a basketball coach. Well, what's next? Like I could have definitely benefited from having a performance coach earlier in my head coaching stint. Okay, well, like, what does that look like? How can I provide that support and that leadership for the me's? But when I started as a head coach, I didn't know what a performance coach was. I didn't know that that's the pivot that would happen. But there's, success in working with one, and then the challenge of becoming a performance coach, becoming a commentator, a broadcaster, and continuing to evolve in this stuff that is enjoyable. It doesn't always have to be fun, but enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, there's always hard work, just like, any athlete or even person in business right now, like there's going to be hard work that goes along with it. As long as you're enjoying the hard work that goes with that path, then I think you're okay, right? You've found something that's good because, again, nothing that's easy is worth working for, and anything that's hard work is going to be worth it in the long run. So I think that what you said of there's growth in each part of your chapter, and then it was finding that next thing to challenge you, to find the next part of, okay, I think I'm ready for this. Let's take that leap of faith and have that trust or confidence in myself that I'm good enough to at least, maybe not right now, but to learn how to do that. And can you touch on maybe a little bit of how, even as a head coach, how much learning went into just figuring that out, or like just even though you're looked at the top dog, right, of the team, and you still had learning to do.
Absolutely. I mean, in athletics, they say like you're never totally ready, but you are ready to take the step, but you're not ready to actually do the job. Like you've never done the job. So why would you be 100% equipped? That, there's conversation. Was year one the hardest or was year two harder? And depending on who you are and what your challenges are, you're going to answer that question differently. So I'll say like those first 2 years, there's a lot of learning on the fly. Whether it's different personalities that you have not interacted with or had to lead before, there's a lot of learning there. Obviously, you're going from one institution to another, and the same could be true from a high school to a college. I'm sorry, from one high school to another high school. You're learning a new administration. You're learning the ins and outs of how that institution, runs and operates. So there's a lot of learning there. And now everybody's looking to you. That was like a huge adjustment for me, like the number of questions that you got on a given day. And not that you didn't get questions before, but like, your question threshold used to be here. And now it's coming in every day by noon up here. And wanting to respond appropriately with well thought out, suggestions or offerings, like takes a lot of research. Then you got to ask questions to people, there's just a lot of questions. So there's a lot of education on, not just your X's and O's of whatever sport you're, like in basketball, it's like, well, do we want to press or do we want to play half court? Like, yeah, that's one set of questions, but like, how do you, there's so many questions that come and there's a lot of work to be done that, yes, you can think about, you can ask mentors about, you can be put in that as an assistant coach and offer your suggestions, but now you're actually in a situation that has real people with real names and also an ecosystem around it that all impact how you're going to respond. And so that's a learning curve, and that's 2 years of like trying to figure it out on the fly. And in athletics, I've always said that there are a few, but not many industries where you work behind the scenes and then you go out and the public can come and watch and criticize you do your job. Like, that's crazy. So there's a lot of learning and a lot of test driving and wanting to be correct, or at least be able to support the decisions that you made because you're very visible and you're very public. There's a lot of learning. There's a lot of learning.
I think that's a cool insight into being a head coach, right? I think everybody thinks like, oh, Marron, we're just going to run press today. We'll drop into a 2-3 zone, whatever it is. And that's all you're figuring out most of the time when you're coaching. Or if it's football, right, we're just going to run a 4-2-5 defense and we're going to run a spread offense. And that's all I need to figure out. And we're good to go. We'll call plays and be good to go. Like, I think that insight, just shows people that, one, you're human. And then two, that we're all learning on the fly. We're all trying to figure it out and be a better version of ourselves, which goes back to that idea of constant improvement. Just there's always new things to learn. There's new needles to push and move. And as a head coach, or I guess looking now as a performance coach, back as a head coach, how important is, process development for you as a coach to help make sure that you're improving those around you?
What comes to mind when you say that is the vulnerability that, yes, you are the head coach, again, of whatever level you're at. You are the head coach, but you either inherited or you hired the people that you're working with. And at least initially, it's really to your advantage to allow them in, to ask for their opinions, their experiences. They all have them. They might not, in 6 months, it might turn out that they're not the right fit or that their experiences aren't really helpful to you right now, but you don't know that right off the bat. So the vulnerability piece of, yes, we all have to agree and I get the final decision, but there's a lot of mentorship of your student athletes, but mentorship of your staff, and for them to be your voice when you're not there, the locker room, the bus, the one-on-one conversation, rebounding before practice or whatever. Like, they have to feel valued, and they have to feel heard, and they have to feel bought in. And to do any of that, like, you have to build rapport and you have to ask for their opinions, right? Like, if you just keep shooting them down without really letting them be heard, they have a different voice than your voice when you're not there. And that can, then cause problems down the road. So I always like to encourage head coaches, new head coaches, veteran head coaches that are bringing somebody new on staff, or just the cycle of the year starting again, being vulnerable and being open to possibly somebody having a better idea than you. Like, it might happen. It just might happen. And one of my favorite sayings is, let those around you, whether it's your staff or your players, let them surprise you. Let them, give them instruction, give them encouragement, give them a clear goal, and let them surprise you. Let them make it let them make the presentation better than you. Let them come up with a better whatever than you could. And I think that also releases some pressure, from the head coach of the micromanaging or the needing to have your thumb and know it all. Because there's no, that comes back to the, are you ready to be a head coach? You can't possibly know it all. If the pandemic taught us anything, is you can't know it all, and you can't be prepared for it all.
Absolutely. I love the having people around you that can surprise you, right? You may be the head coach, but there's still people they can add value in certain ways. And hopefully you brought on a staff, if you were able to as a head coach, to bring in people that maybe have better expertise in certain areas that maybe you don't, to help lift up the team as a whole. And I think that's a really big point for leaders overall, is that you don't have to be the smartest in the room. You have to have the idea and how to implement and do the operations and have the big vision. But like, there might be people that are way better at the accounting side than you, or might be way better at the operations overall and the minute details in that. But you have the overall, so empower them, let them do their thing. How hard, or I guess easy, I don't know, depending on your situation, was that for you to empower those that as coaches or players, and being able to empower them as people and leaders?
That was pretty easy for me. And I will say that because I had a great mentor. I had many mentors, but specifically in Coquise, Washington. She was the head coach at Penn State that hired me to a Power 5 school with 3 years of collegiate coaching experience, all at the United States Naval Academy. And I point those things out, is there's not a lot that you can take from the Naval Academy that, I mean, you're recruiting different players, you've got different budgets, you're playing different schools. I mean, it's different. Now, I brought different experiences because I had come from an academy versus a civilian school. But a lot of how she led and mentored us as assistants in terms of, this is what I want, don't do too much before you bring it back to me, because I don't want you to, go all the way to the end just to be completely in the wrong direction. But, I saw that modeled, and I was somebody who then, kind of grew rapidly and felt valued and was like, oh, she liked that, maybe I can do this. And, I mean, there's a level of like curiosity and confidence that comes with that. But also I was able to hire my own staff. And I did hire somebody who had worked at the institution before me. And that's that's a hurdle for a lot of coaches. And I got to believe for other industries as well. Like, they worked for the old CEO or they worked for the old boss. Like, are they going to buy into my vision? Are they going to speak, my vision to the players? And poor Keith had a 28-day interview, because it was like, I needed him and he kept doing the right things, and it just kind of, it finally worked out for him, I guess. But when you have the opportunity to hire your own staff, and this can be at the high school level as well, there's not a rush. And finding the people that are the right people, that do challenge you, that bring you ideas, that are experts in areas that you're not, or have passions in areas, like, not that you can't do it, but it goes back to the flow thing, right? Like, if it's a lot of work for you and your energy could be used somewhere else, but somebody else has that, pounding the phones recruiting, or just loves to doom scroll on Twitter and come up with every possible connection. Like, if you're not tech savvy and that's not your thing, like, it's okay. But just because you're the head coach, you don't have to have it all. So being able to hire those people and then empower them because of the reasons that you hired them, I think there's huge value, but that takes time. And, you just get a head coaching job, you're super excited, you want them all in right now, and so there's an emotional component. Or you have to replace somebody, and you're not really happy about that. And so there's like a different emotion, and it's like, well, I just got to get somebody in here, And so, I like to encourage folks to take their time. If the right person shows up right away, awesome. But don't settle. Don't settle for those around you. We don't settle for athletes, we are constantly looking up, turning over the next roster and looking for, no, I don't like that kid. She's not X, Y, or Z. Like, I got to find another one. We need to find another one. I think that can be translated more to the staff and the people that you work with. Because they're, being able to empower them and have them support you is so paramount to the program's success, whatever success looks like.
Absolutely. I think that's really cool insight into building a staff, because I think probably a lot of people listening, or even like athletes that might listen, they don't even understand what goes into building a staff, and they just know that the staff shows up and that's who's there, and so it's good. Like, we're gonna work with these coaches, so I think that's really cool. As a part of being, I guess, now a player that went to be a coach, and now you're doing the performance side. What are some of the overlaps between leadership, preparation, or mindset throughout all three of those roles?
I think vulnerability comes in. I think confidence that you are prepared is important to think about. Um, in a lot of those roles, you're recommended, or people seek you out in some capacity or encourage you to take that step or apply. So I think that's where like the confidence, like I'm ready. I can. I should. I want to explore this, or take it further. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so I was trying to see where like mindset, preparation, and then leadership can kind of overlap from like when you're a player, all the preparation, mindset, leadership that it took there. When you were a head coach at the collegiate level, all the same three things. And then as a performance coach now, kind of like what is the overlap between those three different roles in those three different areas? Like, is there a lot of like mindset work that still goes into being a head coach, even though that's not really, you're not really playing the game anymore? Is there still a lot of preparation as a performance coach now? Is there still a lot of leadership as a player that would be able to translate to being a coach or performance coach? Just kind of talk us through those different areas that you've seen overlap throughout your years.
Yeah. I think the thing that comes in all of that for me personally is like the personal leadership, right? Of being showing up ready to do your job. And it can be different in all of those spheres. Being an athlete, being a head coach, as an athlete, you're more of a follower. You might be the captain of your squad, but really coaches are leading you and you're executing their game plan. As a head coach, like now you're being the leader, you're not much of a follower, but you have to lead yourself and have your stuff sorted, to be that leader for your staff, or for your player, for your team. And then I think as in my role as a performance coach, I have to get myself sorted and situated to show up unattached to the outcome, believing in whoever's sitting across the room from me, being curious as to where they can go, not where I want them to go, right? Like that's the coachee coach relationship all the time. And so as it's not all about me, but in terms of succeeding in all of those, there's a lot of personal leadership, and wanting to, like, the strive to be really good. Like to be really good, you have to lead yourself, you have to prepare, you have to work on yourself. Now, are your intentions or your I am statements the same in all three of those buckets? Absolutely not. But the concept of seeing yourself in the future, and sitting up a little straighter and thinking and operating like that next version of yourself is consistent. So for me, I think, like the mindset and the leadership, it all comes down to yourself being able to manage and handle yourself. You're not perfect. Trust me. I'm not perfect. You're not, and I'm not asking anybody to be perfect, but to be aware, to be open, to, in the moment, be stable, be available for whatever comes up in the conversation, or comes up in an interaction. And that's where leading yourself is so important.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, this is going to be a long time ago now once this gets posted, but I talked to a bunch of players and athletes at Ohio Dominican, and I told them, like, if you're not leading anybody else, you're leading yourself. at the end of the day. You still have to lead yourself, still have to show up every single day. And I like what Ben talks about of you can only lead others to the level of discipline that you have. So it takes leading yourself first. You can't lead someone to a higher discipline if you're not actually living that in your own life. And I will I want to talk about real quick about your standards post that you put every single day on your story about living your standards and not living to your feelings. So I want you to just touch on that, maybe why you started that, and then also kind of how it's kind of kept going on.
That's funny. Um, yeah, standards over feelings. You and I both understand the concept of our feelings can come and go, and they can be influenced on our environment, on what we eat, on what we listen to, on the people that we interact with, and therefore the outcome can severely change. But when we live and operate to standards that we as individuals establish for ourselves, there's a level of consistency. And so I firmly believe that if you do hard things in the gym, you can do hard things out of the gym. That there's a correlation and a momentum that goes with that. That for me, getting out of breath, getting a little sore, and physically doing something that is hard, I know I'll succeed in that, meaning I won't die. So I know I will succeed, but it'll be challenging. It'll be hard. I think then I can go do the next thing. Not that I'm invincible, but I think that it's like, wow, I just did that. Like, I'm ready to go. I want to do the next thing. And as I say that, the whole eat the frog idea, typically that comes up in like the hardest task, the most time consuming work task. Like do that in the morning, eat the frog, and then, you have more energy and more time. You're not as distracted by a large project, and, you get other things done. Well, you can also eat the frog by physically doing something hard. And then, I like to say, theoretically, the rest of the day should be a heck of a lot easier. Now, I know that's not always the case, but, depending on what you do in the gym, I tell the other athletes that we're with, I'm like, I bet your coworker didn't just do X, Y, and Z, and everyone kind of laughs like, nope, they probably didn't, get upside down or, whatever it was, run a mile or, do this circuit or whatever. And so it's just for me, like a lot of the social media stuff is for me to remind myself, to keep myself accountable, to know that I'm going to do what I say, and a standard for me is to physically move my body every day. And I know that it works better when I do it first thing in the morning. I also have learned to pivot, that if it doesn't happen, or, you're with your parents on vacation and spending time having coffee with them is more serving and more soul-filling, that you can work out later in the day too, and it's okay. It takes some evolution to get there. But yeah, that's the standard.
Love it. I love it. I love seeing them all the time. And the idea of being able to pivot and maybe break your routine a little bit, right? Us being former athletes, love a routine. You tell me what the routine is, I'm ready to go. Can do it every single time. You throw a little wrinkle in there, I don't love it so much. And I got to work through it mentally of like, all right, I can do this. It's still fine. My day's not over. It's not ruined. It's
Right.
still okay.
Right.
So I wanted to touch on one thing before we wrap up of what's something you now believe about mental toughness or preparation for a big event or just life in general that you didn't believe like maybe 10 years ago or didn't think about 10 years ago?
I think as a younger athlete, I thought that mental toughness was like something you accomplished and then you had it in your back pocket forever. And although that is true, it needs to be tended to. And I recently heard somebody talk about mental toughness, mental fortitude in a similar way that a lot of coaches talk about culture. Like your culture is like a garden. Your team culture, your office culture, your family culture is like a garden. You gotta water it, you gotta feed it, you also have to weed it, right? Like this takes daily observation and intentional work. And that occurred to me. Again, I don't remember the day that occurred to me. But when it comes to mental toughness and thinking about it in a similar capacity of like, yes, you achieve a level of it, but then the next piece of adversity comes, you play at the next level, or you take on a different role on the team, and now there's a different level of discomfort and adversity. Like your mental toughness from 7th grade is not really very helpful in 12th grade. Or, like your mental toughness as a leader of your varsity, team, and now you're a sophomore in college, like not getting the playing time that you got as a senior in high school, like that's a different skill. You've done it, so it's translatable and you can build on it. But the idea that like, the bar's always rising, and you have to work at and be in tune with, your own performance, showing up for yourself, your own mental toughness, being more of a like everyday type of a thing. I didn't know that as a high schooler. I thought I was like, oh, well, I got it. It's right. Like, it's just like my jump shot. I have it. So it's like, it's right there.
Just pull it out of your bag every single time.
Shot every day too, don't you? Well, why would you not? But that's not how I thought as a younger athlete.
I love that because I've been learning the same thing. Like the mental toughness it took to be an athlete, a football player, the mental toughness it took to be a GA assistant coach is not the same kind of mental toughness it takes now to be a performance coach. Like they're all like different buckets. Now, like you talked about, you can pull on those things. Be like, I've done hard things, kind of what you talk about with your standards of going to the gym as well. But I can pull on those things that I've done hard things. I know I have mental toughness in my bag, but now I got to weed it. I got to shape it. I got to make sure it's growing in the right direction to actually be able to help me. So I love that you kind of touched on all those different facets of you can have it, attain it, but then when the bar rises, you have to raise your mental toughness with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we'll wrap up with this. I want to know if you have any advice for your younger self. I know we just talked about your younger self, but any advice for your younger self or just anybody in the audience that you would want them to hear, have them know, and just understand from Marron Walseth what they need to know?
My dad told me when I was a kid that I had a lot of God-given ability, and it was then my responsibility to use those skills. And that has always kind of stuck with me as, kind of a favorite quote, kind of reassuring, like I have the skills and it's my responsibility to use my skills. I don't know that I've always remembered that, but I think that's just a very powerful thought and almost a comforting thought of, again, people aren't going to recommend you or mentor you or engage you in the conversation if they don't think you have some value. So you have that value, you have that skill. It's your responsibility to use it. If you don't use it, you are holding back from that's selfish. You're holding back from impacting other folks in big or small ways that you may or may not see. But if you're an athlete and you have a certain skill, like use it. If you're an assistant coach or a head coach and you've just got a great skill for making others be seen and heard and feel value, like you have to do it every day because the other people you're around might not have that. Like it's your responsibility. That sticks with me. And I think others can pause and listen and reflect on the skills, tangible or not tangible skills, leadership skills, communication skills. It's your responsibility to use them.
I love that. Use the tools that you've been given, right? Use the tools, attack the work with however you need to, and do it to impact others, right? To be able to help them and however you can, right? Whatever that is, if it's an ability to play on the basketball court and bring joy to people as they watch you. Maybe it's that, right? Or like you said, making someone feel valued because that's the gift and ability that you have to impact them. So I love that. Appreciate
I'll
it.
also say one thing, and we said this to recruits all the time when they would go try out for USA basketball or international things. It was like, don't try to go be somebody else because you'll suck and you won't make the team. Go and be you. Like, if you do you at a really high level, the right things will come. You'll make the team. You'll become a starter. You'll have an increased role. They'll ask you to stick around to be a GA. I mean, whatever, like, if you do you at a really high level, it's really hard for people to turn you down. It's when we start trying to act like somebody else that gets us in trouble.
Yeah. So like even for an interview, right? Even if we're going to go for a interview for a job that we really, really want, be you. Go be you because you were made in a perfect way. There's one of one, right?
Yep.
Maren, you're one of one. I'm one of one. There's no other Dom Clegg. There's no other Marron Walseth. Just
Nope.
like everybody else listening, there's just one of you.
Yep.
So go be you.
Go be you at a really high level and it'll work out.
Love it. Well, we're going to end on that. Thanks for tuning in to Leading the Pack. I hope you learned from Maren's tremendous experience from being college athlete, pro athlete, a coach at a high level, and now a high level performance coach, helping and impacting a bunch of organizations, teams, coaches, individuals. So Maren's information is going to be down in the description. So you can contact her, whether it's for speaking, whether it's for her coaching services, or just for some mental performance coaching. It'll be all down there. So you can reach out and contact her, which I highly recommend doing. But don't forget to like and leave a review, subscribe so you don't miss out on any episodes, and share this podcast with someone else who's trying to level up and lead their pack. Like we talked about, Maren is one of one, but we have so many other performance coaches lined up, and not even performance coaches, just high level people that want to impact and have their story heard, and they feel like they have some value to bring to you guys as an audience. So until then, stay hungry, keep leading your pack. Now go attack the work.